Now that sounds trivial, but when you look at people that have been pampered a lot, and you look at people that have been indulged a lot in their life, spoiled is a good word. They tend to be gluttonous in the way other people behave. They tend to be gluttonous in the way they want things done. It's kind of like a me, me, me attitude. And the third is the demanding too much from people. There is a healthy and a natural enjoyment of time spent with your family and your friends. But some people can't get enough of that. That crosses the line into addictive behavior. They demand things that people can't give, and that person that's being demanded of will do one of two things. They will usually move out of your reach so that you can't afflict them anymore, or they will explode and have a fit. I just found it interesting that the Bible talks about these things as being gluttonous and drunken. And he talks about sober-minded, and he talks about self-control a lot in the Bible. So I think they were important to Jesus. You know, the religious people of that day, they accused, I didn't really understand the depth of what they were accusing Jesus until I researched these words, drunken and gluttony. But they accused Jesus of being with wine bibbers and gluttons. And I'm going to say such should be some of us. We should not be gluttons and drunkards. We should not be drunkards in the natural. We should not be gluttons in the natural. That's a hard thing to overcome, but you've got to overcome it in your mind. I just found it interesting when I started studying on this, and I had to research myself. I had to search my heart. I love growing every day in the Lord, closer and closer. If you ever think you've reached it, and then you've lost it. Humility is a good thing, and we need to stay humble in the presence of God and be teachable. I used to pray that God would give me a teachable spirit, because every lesson I learned was a hard lesson. I was stubborn and headstrong, and the pain got pretty great in my life, and I started asking God to give me a teachable spirit. But addictive behavior, you've heard the word obsessive addictive behavior. It's a way of checking out. It's just a way of checking out of life. You know, people do it in all kinds of ways. I have a grandson that got a Galaxy for Christmas, and the other day he was over at the house, and I'm talking to him, and he is ignoring me. He is focused on that Galaxy. And twice I called his name, and he ignored me, and I went over and snatched it from him. Grandma, what are you doing? What are you doing? I didn't say this to him at the time. I didn't think of it. I'm not quite that fast. But I was protecting his mind at that time, because he was setting up a pattern of rebellion. He was setting up a pattern of drunkenness and gluttony with that Galaxy. And as I've had time to think about it, I will discuss that with him. At the time, I just said, why are you ignoring me? I'm not going to put up with that. I'm your grandma. You're not going to treat me that. You know how we get. But the spiritual teaching is going to come, because that's an important thing. But you know what? These devices that we have, all this electronic world that we're in, is not the only problem. Have you ever talked to someone that's that obsessive and that addictive about what they're thinking and what their mind is set on? It's energy draining, isn't it? Well, they have set up a pattern of thinking of gluttony. It's all about them. They're drunk in the emotion that they have a right to be there. What does the Bible say about that? We had a woman at our church. We had a man that come out of prison, and he had done something, and he needed a place to worship. And he came to Jack. Jack had known him years before, and he wanted to come to the church. And Jack met with his elders and told them the situation and that he had welcomed him home. He had been a member of that church years before Jack took it over. To make a long story short, there was one of the elders' wife that said, if he comes back to this church, I'm gone. He is not welcome here. I'm a charter member, and I don't want him here. And Jack got in her face. He said, so you're telling me that it doesn't matter to you what the Bible says. It doesn't matter to you what Jesus said do. You're going to act the way you feel. You're going to act on your feelings. You're going to do and behave the way you choose, regardless of what Jesus said. And when Jack put it to her like that, she had to do a little reality check. Wait a minute. I don't want to offend God. So what's more important here? The finished work of Jesus? The blood that was shed for my forgiveness? Or is it more important for me to be addicted to my feelings? A lot of people get addicted to physical pain. I'm not one that likes physical pain, and I'm not saying you like it. But in many, many cases over the years, I have found and seen people who could not handle emotional pain. And it was a whole lot easier to focus on their physical pain than deal with their emotional pain. I had a woman when I was counseling at Baytown Medical Center. She had a paralyzed arm. And I was in a counseling session with her. And she could not raise this arm. I mean, she was paralyzed. She could not use it. She couldn't even reach out. And when she tried to, I say paralyzed, it was unusable. It was the pain was just so severe whenever she tried to use it that she quit using it. And the muscles were deteriorating. They could find nothing physically wrong with her arm. As we got into a counseling session, and I probed with her and discovered that she had a child out of wedlock, and that this child happened to be a biracial child, that she was a white woman, and she was married to a man now that didn't want that child, and that child was living with her mother, and he was a shame to this new husband, and that was killing her emotionally, but she could not deal with it in the natural. Jesus came to heal the brokenhearted. Jesus is the answer to every situation that we have.